Kenyan author Ken Walibora, recently laid to rest, left a legacy of fans who cherished his works in Swahili classes, including BBC's Basilio Mutahai. Walibora was celebrated for his efforts in promoting Swahili, the national language featured in his writing. In 2018, he expressed concern about schools in Kenya displaying signs that read, "This is an English-speaking zone." He challenged the Ministry of Education on the prohibition of students speaking Swahili, highlighting that it was a national language. He argued that such restrictions signified brainwashing and neo-colonialism, asserting that no country should prioritize a foreign language over its own national language. His most notable work, his debut novel Siku Njema, was later translated into English as A Good Day. This novel was used as a set book in high schools across the nation for many years. Numerous Kenyans who read the book in school recounted how it helped them appreciate Swahili literature, a genre many found difficult to engage with. Proof. Austin Bukenya, a pioneering African scholar of English and literature in East Africa from Uganda, proclaimed that Walibora was the king of Kenyan Swahili literature. Walibora, born on January 6, 1965, as Kennedy Waliaula in Baraki, Bungoma County in western Kenya, later changed his identity to Walibora, taking the latter part of his surname, which means better in Swahili, and shortening his first name to Ken. He worked as a teacher and a probation officer before transitioning into journalism, eventually becoming a professor of the Kiswahili language in both the US and Kenya. Tragically, he passed away on April 10 following a collision with a bus in downtown Nairobi, as reported by the police. After being missing for 5 days, his body was discovered at the mortuary of Kenya's main referral hospital. The police's homicide department took over the investigation of his death after a post-mortem examination revealed a knife wound between his thumb and index finger. He was interred on April 21 at his family home in western Kenya, in a ceremony restricted to no more than 15 attendees due to measures to curb the spread of coronavirus. His widow and 2 children were unable to attend the funeral as they were unable to leave the US due to COVID-19 travel restrictions. Proof 4. Walibora was known as a prolific writer. Between the publication of Siku Njema in 1996 and his death, he authored over 40 books spanning various genres, including novels, short stories, plays. He was often described as consistently writing bestsellers. Even shortly before his untimely death, he had at least one book nearly ready for posthumous publication. Apart from his debut novel, he had written another book designated as a national set book for Kiswahili literature in schools, titled Kidagaa, Kimemwozea. However, it was Siku Njema that truly endeared him to young readers. One individual recalled reading the novel with its cover illustration of a silhouetted man looking into the distance in a single evening about 20 years ago, the very day it was introduced in class as the high school literature text. Over the next 2 years, the class delved into the book's themes and stylistic elements. The aspirational aspect of his storytelling resonated most with this reader, inspiring a vision of improvement not just in academics but in life as well. Beyond the elements of hope that the reader connected with, the book was praised for its vivid imagery and poetry. The reader identified with the struggles of the main character, Misanafu Kombo, a mistreated child who grew up without parents and later embarked on a perilous journey from Tanzania to find his father in Kenya. In the narrative, Misanafu Kombo excelled in the Swahili language, winning a prize for an essay he had written for a school competition, earning him the nickname Kongwea Miss Swahili among his schoolmates. Similar to Miss Swahili, the reader developed a love for Swahili in school, which inspired the crafting of a personal manuscript in the language that has been preserved to this day. Furthermore, this passion fueled a desire to learn more about the language, leading to top grades throughout high school and consequently a nickname of Kongwea Miss Swahili. Later in life, the paths of the reader and proof. Walibora crossed at the Nation Media Group in Nairobi, where they both worked as journalists. The reader felt a sense of pride in working alongside a man who had once been a teenage hero. Although they were now colleagues in journalism, the admiration for Prof. Walibora persisted as he continued to produce books, making it seem like catching up with him was an unachievable goal. Yet, the reader often reflected on how different Prof. Walibora's personality was from their earlier perceptions. He was just an ordinary man who engaged easily in conversations with colleagues despite his celebrity status. With hindsight, the reader noted that the aspiration to become a writer like him lingered, but amidst the fast pace of journalism, they regretted not expressing the extent of the inspiration he provided. When news of Prof. Walibora's death broke, many Kenyans were taken aback, and numerous tributes poured in from people who had known him personally, at work or through his literature. Douglas Mutua, a writer and lecturer in the US who had previously been Prof. Walibora's colleague, remembered him as someone who nurtured talent. Mutua shared that Prof. Walibora cherished three things: Swahili, humanity, and football. On social media, one Kenyan referred to Prof. Walibora as Kenya's William Shakespeare, a title that perhaps the modest author would have preferred to avoid, as he was not one to showcase his celebrated status. In his autobiography, he had expressed, "There are people who are worth remembering and who can be remembered, but I'm not one of them. I'm not among them." He further stated that if writing his autobiography could exemplify how to write one rather than how to live life, then he would have achieved his goal.